In those moments when we are alone and suffering on the road of life, thank the Lord for those he sends to walk with us, those who come into our lives like good Samaritans and bind up our wounds and help us get along. This is one of those moments. Young Joseph had allowed Martin Harris to take the manuscript of the Book of Mormon, thus far completed, back to Palmyra to show it to his family. That manuscript at the time comprised the Book of Lehi. Martin had left June 14th, 1828, going from Harmony, Pennsylvania, back to Palmyra, promising to show it to only a few people and to quickly return. Following day, June 15th, Emma delivered her first baby, a little boy, who lived only for a short time. Emma's life was in danger. She seemed to tremble on the verge of the silent home of her infant. So uncertain seemed her fate for a season that in the space of 2 weeks, her husband never slept 1 hour in undisturbed quiet. End quote. Joseph watched over Emma day and night to save her life. As the days passed, Joseph became increasingly anxious about the manuscript, having heard nothing from Martin. Finally, after 3 weeks, Emma asked Joseph to go to Palmyra and get the manuscript. Quote, after much persuasion, he concluded to leave his wife in the care of her mother for a few days and set out on the before-mentioned journey. But the sensations which he experienced when he found himself well seated in the stagecoach, left to the solitude of his own imagination, cannot be imagined by anyone who reads this, for they have not been in like circumstances. End of quote. In other words, as Joseph traveled north in the stagecoach, a terrible feeling came over him. Mother Smith said, quote, Joseph awfully feared that he had ventured too far in vouching for the safety of the manuscript after it was out of his possession. Perhaps he might never have the privilege of touching a finger to the work, which until now he had been the blessed instrument in the hands of God of bringing to the knowledge of mankind. End of quote. You see where Joseph's at? Doubts crept in. Had he gone too far in trusting Martin, in letting that manuscript out of his hands? I can comprehend. Joseph was stressed, under pressure, young, inexperienced. Martin was older, persuasive. But now, oh, what if I made a mistake? Had he gone too far? Had he sinned too much? Had he pushed too hard? Joseph neither ate nor slept on the stagecoach that night. There was only one other passenger on the stage who up to this point had said very little. When Joseph got off the stage and commented to the strangers that he had yet 20 miles to walk, the stranger said this to him, quote, I have watched you since you first entered the stage, and I know that you have not slept nor eaten since you commenced your journey, and you shall not go on foot 20 miles alone this night, for if you must and will go, I will be your company. End of quote. The stranger got off with him and asked Joseph why he was in such a bad way. He listened as Joseph told him of the death of his firstborn son and how he rightly feared that he might not return and find his wife alive. Together they walked on through the night. Mother Smith, Lucy Mack Smith, records, quote, 4 miles of distance, the stranger was under the necessity of leading Joseph by his arm, for nature was too much exhausted to support him any longer, and he would fall asleep as he stood upon his feet. End of quote. They arrived at the Smith farm in Manchester just before daylight. The stranger said, quote, "I have brought your son through the forest because he insisted on coming, but he is sick and wants rest and refreshment." End of quote. The stranger asked them to care for Joseph and then said kindly, "I will thank you for a little breakfast as I am in haste to be on my journey again." End of quote. Joseph was cared for. The stranger was given a bit of breakfast, and Mother Smith said, "The stranger left, whose name we never knew." End of quote. Thank the Lord for friends and strangers who have been there when I needed them. But more importantly, thank the Lord for people like you who are those strangers on the road for someone else.